President Trump may constantly be at war with what he calls fake news, but he does answer a lot of questions from the press, and he certainly did that yesterday, making all kinds of news. He called Kim Jong-un honorable, said he was behaving honorably. That surprised a lot of people. He called the Iran nuclear deal, which he's been critical of all along, insane and ridiculous. Hinted he still wants to get out of it and threaten the Iranians if they restart their nuclear program. But the most fascinating insight into the president's thinking came during a news conference with the president when he talked about the embattled nomination of Ronny Jackson. You'll recall he is the White House doctor who has already been under a lot of criticism once he was nominated to run the VA because he doesn't have any major management experience. He's the guy who there were SNL skits and all kinds of media mockery when he held that news conference where he said the president was just so incredibly, wonderfully healthy that he could live for 200 years if he would just have a better diet. And so what happened is there was supposed to be a Senate confirmation hearing today, but it was postponed because of new allegations that have come up about Ronny Jackson. And this has to do, first reported by CBS, then the New York Times and others, has to do with questions, allegations, I have to stress, of excessive drinking on the job, of overprescribing certain drugs, creating or presiding over a hostile work environment. So the Veterans Affairs Committee wants to take a closer look. So this was put to the president at that news conference by Fox's John Roberts, and boy, did he unload. First, he praised Admiral Jackson as one of the finest people I've ever met. He's a great doctor. I know there's an experience problem, the president said, because of lack of experience, but he went on to say that the Veterans Administration is so massive that nobody really could have the proper experience to take on that job. But then he, while saying that he wasn't familiar with the allegations, which by the time of the news conference obviously had been out there in the press, the president said that he had just told Jackson, "What do you need this for? This is a vicious group of people that malign." Says he also said that, you know what, Doc, you're too fine a person to do this. And then he went on. He called the Democrats obstructionist, and he said, "I don't want to put a man through a process like this. It's too ugly and too disgusting. I don't think personally he should do it." He said, "If it were me, I would not do it." Now, that's very much sounded like the president was at least opening the door for Ronny Jackson to withdraw. Whether he was or not, he clearly is fed up with the confirmation process. But here's the thing. It's the Republicans who control the Senate. It's the Republicans who control the Senate Veterans Committee. Johnny Isakson is the chairman there. They are the ones, in conjunction with the Democrats, that decided to hold off on the nomination, on the hearings at least, and they're doing their job. The Senate is supposed to advise and consent. And these allegations have come up. Their nomination, I believe, was already in trouble because it didn't seem to many people on the Hill that this is the right pick for a thankless, virtually impossible job. 9 million patients that use the VA system and $177 billion budget. Now, obviously, there's a larger template here, which is the president tends to pick people who he's comfortable with. He likes and respects Admiral Jackson, but the White House did very little, if any, vetting. And there's been a whole long history of this, not just in the turnover that we see in the White House and other jobs, but other nominees who've had to withdraw from the Army to the Navy, deputies at the major departments, the Labor Secretary. All of these nominations had to be pulled back after they were announced because this White House either doesn't try hard enough or doesn't quite grasp the importance of doing the vetting. So you learn of embarrassing things in somebody's background or disqualifying information before you actually announce the nomination. This president takes a different approach. But he tried to tie it, the president did, to the embattled nomination of Mike Pompeo at the State Department, where I've said, and that only got through committee because Rand Paul flipped at the last minute, and I've said, there the Democrats are playing politics. Republicans have played politics in the past. Democrats are playing politics now. But you can't really link the two because this is not some Democratic effort to defeat Ronny Jackson. It is an effort by both parties in Capitol Hill to at least slow the process down and see where we stand. So it was fascinating to see that interaction with the media when the president answered John Roberts' question. And the fact is, if you don't vet people in advance and you just kind of go on gut instinct, these things are going to happen. And that is what has cast such a shadow over the nomination to head the Veterans Administration.